Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and you see how I reacted in that. It was an inside day, a day that I don't have very often, and so I appreciate the lessons in my experience. And I'm honestly saying that because it gives me a moment to reflect on how I'm doing. Because, there were times in my life that I would have reacted to these difficult days in different manners, right? How I would beat myself up, how I would put myself in a state where I would be like that for days. And I'm very kind of proud of myself now. It's nothing to stress out about, nothing to worry about or anything. Nothing that I'm not, right? I'm a big girl now and I can appreciate that. We all have difficult days. We all have struggles in our lives. And it's how we maneuver those stormy waters. And that's the truth. And that's when you can actually appreciate how far you've come, especially if it's reflective of a different, like I'm saying, a different Cindy than I used to be. And so, there's something to say in that. And in that appreciation, I thought, I am begged. I'm going to have a good sleepy tonight. But I managed to get my Instagram post in, and I'm kind of pleased with that too. And yeah, you keep moving forward, you keep putting one foot in front of another, and that's what movement's all about. And there's growth in that, growth in the struggles. We all try and keep our lives so calm watered, right? We don't want to throw the wrenches into our lives. We don't want the hairy, scary. We try to maneuver everybody's feelings so that it doesn't rub off on us and put us in a state. But sometimes you got to appreciate the mess. And when I say that, I'm going to say sometimes you got to make a mess to clean a mess. And that's the truth. And that's something I can appreciate about my day today. Today I thought, because I don't want to lead the conversation off in any direction, right? That I thought I would let the cards do it for us today. Normally, right, we take the card at the end of the live show. We just kind of tie it in. But how about if we go into the conversation in whatever the universe wants us to talk about? It will still be the first perspective. It'll be the first thing that comes to my mind. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's a personal experience, sometimes it's a feeling, and sometimes it's something in the lessons that come across my path. My Instagram post was actually a collaboration with somebody who's been gone for 60 years. I've been taking in a lot of his content, especially in the past week. It's Carl Jung. He's a um, highly regarded psychologist out there, and I've been taking in a lot of his content this week. It comes in waves like that, right? For me, and I work with what comes across my path, and it just worked out that way. But in that week of heavy Carl Jung, it really made an impact in my understanding. He does a lot of work in shadow work, in understanding the emotions himself, right? He has his own way of doing it. He's very smart man, you know, degrees and all out the yin yang and right, like I said, he is an expert in his field. I'm a layman in what I do. I have no actual education when it comes to understanding emotions and working in these topics that Carl Jung works in. But I gobble that stuff up like popcorn these days. And that's the truth. And ever since I incorporated in exploring the inside as well as the outside on this channel, it has been important for me to be a layman, right? To be as good as I can, right? Apply myself. If I could reach that goal of being great in what I do, right? That would be absolutely amazing. But it's in the work that we want to put into it, right? You don't get that gold medal by just laying on the couch with the remote control and say, I want the gold medal, right? You have to put in the reps, you have to put in the work, and you have to enjoy it. It just can't be in taking somebody out to be on that top of the heap, right? I'm never going to be on that top of the heap, but I do things my way. And I think my way is quite effective because I use myself not as a guinea pig, but as my own student, right? As a spectator as to what I'm doing, as a spectator as to what I'm accomplishing, and in that reflection in the people that come across my path, just to be able to be that evidence, to be that example for others, that kind of makes me joyous. That, it says, Cindy, you did right. You did exactly what you were meant to do, right? In taking care of yourself, myself, in taking care of myself, and in sharing that experience, because that's exactly what I've done, right? Because the moment I woke up to these ideas, I was already here on YouTube, right? And every lesson, every important lesson, the lessons in consistency, the the lessons in optimism, in thought leadership. These were all things that took years, right? To get, I'm not going to say down packed because it's going to be an ever achievement for me. I'll never get it done. I'll never get it finished, not in this lifetime. But I'm optimistic, when those other parts of me wake up in another situation and somebody else who's got a passion for these subjects that I love: nature, history, understanding emotions, that they'll be able to jump into it with gumption, right? Because they'll love it, but to be able to understand it a little bit easier than I do. Everybody's got to start that ball. You know, I was talking to my nephew about it, and he said, Cindy, it was your dad that started that ball rolling in our family. He's woke up to his own ideas. We have a few members of the family that woke up to the ideas, and I'm grateful for that company. But we're all doing our own thing. We're all doing different things, right? And so we let each other have that space to be themselves, but we support each other because we're kind of like in the same club in that, right? And he was saying to me, Cindy, your dad started all this, in wanting to better himself. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was a commercial fisherman, and he had cabs. He used to drive cabs when it was off season, when he was out. He'd go off for 3 times a year, usually for 2 or 3 months. He would be away. So he was only home for a few months a year. And in that, in making money, right, he would drive cab, right? So he was a true blood when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Me growing up, I had no idea what an entrepreneur was. I mean, I was kind of one myself. Well, all of us girls were. My dad had 4 girls. All of us were creative in how we made money. We were a low income household. So if we wanted spending money, munchy money, movie money, right, we had to be creative in how we accumulated it, right? And each one of us did it a little bit differently, but we were all entrepreneurs, not even realizing it. Sometimes I would think quite often it's that necessity to be an entrepreneur. You know, in this moment, I don't talk about it lots, but I have been for the past year contributing to putting the roof over my head by being a reseller. Now, if you don't know what a reseller is, I guess we're not doing the card first. If you don't know what a reseller is, it's somebody who buys merchandise super cheap and then they sell it for a profit, right? And I go to thrift stores. I partner up with my second youngest sister who just loves eBay. She's an eBay seller. She doesn't sell to the States anymore because of the American tariffs are just too high, right? But we do marketplace and we get to have those little outings together where we can go off and spend an afternoon and stop off at the coffee shop and pick up a coffee and go to different thrift stores. We have a route going on. We do garage sales. We used to do auctions all the time, and that was lots of fun until they shut down our favorite auction. Well, they didn't shut it down. They just put it online. They didn't do it in the actual building, which was the big fun, just rummaging through all the boxes to figure out where those scores were so we knew which ones to bid on. Oh my goodness, my sister was awesome at the auctions. I remember that she got a Rolex watch one time, a real Rolex watch, and it was in a box full of great things, and it wasn't the only great thing in the box, and she got it for $5 this box. And then one time she got a jar of marbles, and there was one marble, it was a big marble like that. She got one marble and she put it up for sale for $800 and it sold right away. Like, who would have ever thought a marble could be worth that much money? And she has got stories like that you wouldn't believe. I've gotten a few good scores myself. Offhand, I can't remember them, but I have a couple right now that I've got sale. I've got a wood carved owl by a famous bronze artist. Before he started working in bronze, he was making his money before he could get noticed in the industry, right? He won awards and stuff for his carvings, and then with that money, he started doing bronze work, and his pieces go for like $40,000. I also have a bonsai pot I picked up for $6. I've got that up for $1,000 too. So I do find good scores too. And again, I worked in a little thrift store for, oh my goodness, 5 or 6 years I worked there. And in those 5 or 6 years, we had to price the stock and the donations as they would come in. And I got to be a pretty good expert when it came, because I always wanted to do good for the company out of appreciation for giving me a shot in that job. And to tell you the truth, it was a little thrift store. But I would have to say it was my second favorite job that I ever had. And I probably had 20 different jobs in my career, right? But it was my second favorite job. First favorite, of course, was working in the bars and the nightclubs. But the second favorite job was working in the thrift store. And it wasn't because of the scores, because when I was working there, I was just buying lovelies for myself. Like this stuff. This is all thrifted. This is all stuff that I picked up as a score, but some of it is worth a fortune. Like my Napoleon. You guys can't get a good bird's eye on that one. But that's worth $3,000 the way it is. And it's got a broken sword, a broken chair, and he's got some repaired chips in his hat, and it's worth $3,000. Now, if it was in great shape, it'd be worth between $6,000 and $7,000, right? I got it for $1. But these are my lovelies, and I didn't buy these things to sell them. I bought them because they did something for my soul, right? They put a smile on my face. They give me stories to tell, right? And, if you don't know, I'm looking at RVs and stuff, but I'm looking at RVs that have wall space. And when you get an RV or a trailer, they utilize every spot on that trailer. So it's hard to find trailers that actually have wall space that will fit these 2.5 feet by 3 foot pictures, one horizontal, one vertical, right? But I'm going to have a hard time parting with those. I actually have three because I'm going to have a hard time parting with that one. I recently found that was a good score too. It's worth about $400, right? And only because I found the signature, so I was able to get the research. I just thought it was a print, but I didn't recognize that it was a print actually created by the artist, right? Usually these prints are mass produced after the artist is long gone, but this was something that he specifically did. But it was something that I did to put a roof over my head after I left my position in that little thrift store. And I was so close to pension time. And because I was determined in my goals and my dreams, right? It's never too late. And I might not ever achieve I see you there, Tammy. Hello, dear. I might not ever achieve my dreams or my goals, but that's not going to stop me from moving forward, right? I am the example for the very least myself. And I move towards what I want in my life. And I find ways to make things happen. And that's what we should all be doing. You know, you think that that's just survival, but it's not survival, it's experience. Just like what I did in that little thrift store, all that experience that I gained in doing the research on the donated items and trying to make the highest amount of money for the company I worked for, just out of appreciation for the job that I couldn't have believed that I had gotten. And I didn't want that job. I thought it was demeaning, right? I didn't want to work in a thrift store. And I remembered I made a big fuss about it because by that time I was already into the mindset and I really wanted to go into service. So I wanted to work in a hospital or I wanted to work in an old folks home, but I wanted to do something out of service. And then I recognized, in working in a thrift store, you're helping people out who are financially unstable, that they're able to dress well for work or, right, to to have a bit of a social life for themselves, so that it's good for your esteem to wear nice clothes, right? And I got so many beautiful clothes working in that thrift store. It was one of the things that added on to that love of that position, right? But there were lots of things about that job that I absolutely did appreciate. And so, out of that appreciation, I wanted to give back to the company. And so, what I would do is I would make sure that I would find money in the donation so I could put higher price tags on it to cover 1 day of wage. I would bring a donation bag from home once a week, enough that I could put price tags on it that would pay for 1 day of my shifts, right? Also, I was superwoman, right? People were calling sick right and left. I would just pick up the slack and do the work of two people because I loved my job so much, right? And also, I would find great things for the auction window, right? Some nice high ticket things that I know if they put it in the auction window that they did every month, that would bring in extra money too. So I tried to make it so that they were actually paying me like I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, but they were getting equal to that paycheck, right? Than what I was taking home just from all the give back that I was giving. I was making it my service, right? It wasn't just appreciation, it was part of my service. And it was a great company because, a lot of homeless and a lot of people that were down and out that we were able to help, with a pair of pants or a jacket in wintertime or a sleeping bag if they were sleeping outside. And, over COVID, that got a little bit difficult because everybody got desperate, right? And in that desperation was a lot of frustration, and it got a little bit rough towards the end, and I wasn't meant to work that job as the bouncer, right? I could hold my own if I had to in there, but there's always going to come a point where you're going to misjudge a situation, and then you're in a situation. So it became a little bit uncomfortable for me for lots of reasons. But I couldn't hold on to that job. Circumstances played out. I was able to hold on for an extra year and a half. But then it just got to be too much, and I left that job. But when I left that job, I was so close to my retirement. I was so close to having a pension. Like I said, I'm not quitting. I'm moving forward, right? I'm the example for others, but least of all, I am that example for myself that it's never too late, right? And I can appreciate that. But I gained experience at that job, and I came up with this bright idea. Oh my goodness, Cindy, you got too much stuff. Like the place, I'm not working anymore, so all I'm doing is cleaning and organizing, and right? And you got too much stuff, Cindy. And then I would put it up for sale, and people were just, wow, I was just making so much money. Money was just flowing really, really nice, right? And then I started partnering up with my sister. Then I started going to the thrift stores by myself, and it slowed down a little bit. There is a recession, and of course, it's summertime. People are using their money to spend on summer activities and summer outfits and stuff. I get it, but I do have almost 100 items up for sale right now, and my sister's probably she probably got about 300 items up for sale, right? Yeah, she likes her costume jewelry, and I'm grateful to her because she also gave me some of her costume jewelry to sell. In the moment, like I said, it's summertime. It's not doing so well, but it is in that adapt and conquer and finding a way and being optimistic that if that doesn't work, something else will come up, right? I've got less than 5 months, and then I'll be getting a paycheck just as big out of my pension as I did whenever I worked, right? And so, you know, that's going to take a lot of ease off, and it's going to give me an opportunity actually to save money for a vehicle, to maybe do some workshops, right? It's been a long time that I've been able to divvy out any money for that. I'm living on a little pension and what I can sell. And yet I've been doing that for over a year. And here, 6 days a week. And not only that, I'm doing at least 5 hours a day in the studies, right? And I've also joined into some university courses being offered at no cost and accredited courses too in complex trauma, addictions. So, all these things that are going to be helpful when I actually start, right, moving into those fields that, you know, I got a good wake up call today as to, you know, I got to be a little bit more knowledgeable when it comes to AI. I can say I'm a good communicator, and with a little bit of time and focus, I can push some buttons and do a little bit of research and find my way around. But I'm still making mistakes in that too, right? And it's in our failures that we go, oh my goodness, that can't ever happen again, right? That can't ever happen again. And you do your darndest to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But that doesn't mean that it won't happen again. Maybe it won't, it'll be something else, right? Because it's always something else. And that's what these little challenges that we have in our lives, and lots of them are not little challenges, some of them are big challenges, right? Destitution challenges, serious health and illness issues, right? Lots of times we have elderly parents who are getting to live. I mean, it was like 150 years ago, average lifespan would have been like 60 years old, and 150 years before that, it would have been in their 40s, right? But now there's that opportunity to live to be like 100 years old. And so now you have children raising their own children, and then as soon as those children leave the nest, then they go back and they care for their elderly parents too, right? So it's in that process of working and adapting with those struggles, because if it's not going to be one thing, it's going to be another, and it's going to be ongoing. That's what life is all about, right? And that's evolution. It's those who don't move in evolution, those who go extinct in their evolutions, are the ones who are sitting on the couch with the remote control, right? It's why I'm not such a big fan of that word hope. I know it's a beautiful, just even saying the word, it's a very pretty word, hope. But for me, when you say the word hope, it's like putting your hands out, or it's like putting your hands over your face and just praying and just waiting for somebody to come in and rescue you. It doesn't serve that word hope. It makes it so people just give up and they wait for the miracles. And that phrase, God helps those who help themselves, it's so true. Because if you're laying on the couch with the remote control, where is the evolution in that? Right? And that's the truth. We live in this age of AI learning right now, but they call it AI learning because they're still learning in it. And like I said, I got a good wake up call today that I need to get a little bit better in that aspect before I start searching out, joining forces. And well, I wasn't going to say practice my craft, but I did change my email down below. Anybody down there who wants to do me a favor and in exchange, we could have a little bit of a chit chat. If you guys have been hanging out with me for any length of time, you guys know that I work with dynamic families and the results emotionally, mentally, right? When it comes to being brought up and moving forward as adults and all the problems that arise because of these experiences that we have, right? And it's to just help people better understand. So, specifically, dynamic families, trauma, right? Different personality disorders. These are things that I have been working in for, oh, you guys, I'm going to have to say almost 10 years now, right? Now, of course, since I haven't been at my job, I've been able to apply more hours into what I'm doing. And of course, also in that learning process, come to the realization it was work for myself, right? So if you ever get that appreciation and that mirroring back to yourself in reflection of, oh my goodness, those experiences too. I would love it if you would just shoot me an email. It's down there below. If you want to come in and do a Zoom talk with me, I need, right? I need to practice working in some of these programs online, and you be doing me a service, and possibly you might get something out of it too. We might both get something out of it, right? I do need to practice my craft, right? But I want to be as sure as myself, and I want to see that reflected in the people that I work with, right? That they're being benefited by that also. So it would be much appreciated, right? Consider it a favor to me. And I thought, for all of July, pretty much leave the mornings available. First one, I would say I would love to have a little bit of an introduction, just have a nice light cup of coffee or a glass of juice and just have a chit chat to see where we're at for 40 minutes. And then maybe once a week, right? Get together for a half an hour and see if we can hash out some of these experiences, right? And recognize these are experiences that lots of people have. Lots of people have them, right? I certainly did. Purpose comes from your pain. And, I might have got the exact pain not on point, but all those lessons were lessons nonetheless that I needed. And so, if you'd like to just have a little bit of a chit chat, a little bit of an exchange, that would be a service for me too. So, email down below. And yeah, Tammy, my email's down below. If you want to shoot me your email, I'll send you that post that I posted to Instagram today. Remember, we were talking about it yesterday? I posted it. I had to adjust it a little bit. It was a little bit longer than Instagram allowed me to put words, but it a lot of the stuff that I had written, I noticed that it wasn't really necessary, that I could get the point across in eliminating quite a bit of it, and it worked out just perfectly. So yes, that's my email down below. Email me, and I will send that to you. And yeah, and then you'll have my email, because lots of times, you might have a conversation, or maybe you would come in and join me and have a conversation, Tim. That would be lovely. Okay, you guys. So much for pulling the card at the beginning of my live tonight. But I do appreciate this platform where I can come in and have those kind of days that everybody struggles with on occasion, and come out of it feeling revived, right? Feeling like, nah, right? It's just a rainy day. Okay, you guys, let's pull a card. If you don't know 54 powerful words, sometimes it's pertinent to the conversation. Sometimes I just go off on something else, and that's the first perspective, and how it comes across is how it comes across. So here's the word today. Oh my goodness, come on. Well, I was going to take this back card here, so let's grab it. Ah, look at this. Patience is the proofreader. I haven't pulled this card yet. And I've been pulling cards for, well, over a year now for sure. And I've never pulled this card. But that's a good lesson for me, too. We always want things yesterday, right? It's always rush, rush, rush. And it's why we grow up to have a lot of these issues from when we're kids, because we never resolved them in all that span of our childhood or our teenage years. And we never got that help that we needed because we didn't understand that there were any issues going on. And then we turn into adults, and then we figure out, oh my goodness, right? I'm dealing with this. I can't give up the pink ice donuts. I can't give up cigarettes. I can't, right? I'm drinking too much. Whatever it is that we do, we're cleaning the house too much. We're shopping too much. We're watching too much TV. We can't get off the video games. Anything that is habitual, that we're doing all the time, that's an addiction, right? It could be uh, um, a good addiction, right? Sometimes you look at these bodybuilders and stuff, and or these women who are dieting, and they're out there and they're jogging and losing weight too, right? But they want to lose that weight, but they have to replace the food, which was an addiction. They have to replace it with something else. And if you don't replace it with a healthy addiction, then you're going to replace it with something that isn't healthy. And once you're in that patterning, right? Once you're in it, it's so hard. Like some of these things that I got addicted to, it took literally years, right? Now I haven't got the pink ice donut down pat, but I tell you, the past 2 weeks, I have been doing a whole lot better. And it's in the recognition sometimes, just in recognizing the problem, that resolves a lot of the problem. Recognizing it, but not dwelling on it, because what you think about is realized. And I was talking to my sister yesterday about that. What you think about is realized. And I thought, you know, these people like my father, who got that diagnosis of his congenital heart failure, and he was told he only had a few years to live, and he was just in his late teens. He never expected to get married and have children, but he did. But he woke up every morning thinking today could be my last day, right? what you think about is realized. If he didn't dwell on that every single day, and I'm not quite sure if he dwelled on it. I mean, I don't know how you can't recognize it if you're taking pills and medication and following diets and being harped on about your hard job that you do, but because it's your passion. And my dad was determined to live his best life, that he made up a lot of his own rules to that game. But he still extended his life by 25 years, right? But I can't imagine, when you understand what you think about is realize that, how much of that did it influence that he still, I mean, 47 is still fairly young, but he wasn't expected to live much into his 20s, right? So you have to appreciate that my father did something right. And so when I talked, you missed a little bit when I came in live today, that, I was having this conversation with my nephew about my dad starting that ball rolling down the hill, right? And each generation, if we can just add a little bit more to that contribution of resolving a lot of these things that get passed down from one generation to the next. Oh my goodness, how fast can we do that? And how many people could we influence in that, in our evidence, visual evidence that it can be done? Because some of you guys have been with me for years and years. And I'm grateful for that, because it does give me that opportunity to reflect who I was 10 years ago or 14 years ago, right? Because that's how long I've been on YouTube, almost 15 years, right? And where I'm at right now. But that was patience, right? 15 years, that seems pretty long time, in being a YouTube creator. But it's in that pivoting, it is in that adapt and conquer and riding the waves and never giving up and pushing back at what pushes you. And more importantly, patience is the proofreader, not bypassing the lessons, right? Just to get to the finish line first. I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care. I know how this game works now. Like, I really know the benefits of how I'm doing it, how much baby steps has made it possible for me to get as far as I have gotten as of this moment, right? We all want things done yesterday. But, you know, sometimes I get it, right? Sometimes there is a span that you can only accomplish. You can only be a model. You can't say, well, okay, I'm going to do this now. And 20 years later, you're still at it and still not achieved your goals and dreams, right? Because a model has only got a frame of 5 or 10 years as a career. And in that 5 or 10 years, they have to accumulate as much because that's what they're going to live on for the rest of their lives, right? So sometimes it's starting early, sometimes it's doing double time, right? Doing the homework, putting in the hours, putting in the extra. That's what the Olympians do, right? That's what hockey players do and football do players do. It's the best of the best, right? And they just didn't lay on the couch with the remote control and go, "Oh, I'm going to be in the Olympics." No, they had to do the work. But lots of people, they do the work, but there are ways to get by it, right? Like cheating on an exam in school and just bypassing all these important aspects, all these important lessons that we so desperately need And in the moment, we think, oh, that's not important. You can just buy, that's okay, right? And at the end, you get your degree and you can't even spell. Right? I was just referencing myself. I was a really bad student in school, and spelling was not my forte in any way. And, I can't imagine how I graduated high school, but sometimes the system just pushes those kids through, right? And it's all bypassed. And can you imagine if I had applied myself, right? If I had learned to be a good speller, I would have had that first, maybe second book on the shelves right now as me as the author, right? That I wouldn't have to reference uh, uh, the encyclopedias. I'm going Wikipedia now or Googling or something, right? Because we're in AI learning. It's not difficult to learn how to spell, especially with these programs. I use Grammarly, right? If you're not using a good, well, I use a couple, but I really like Grammarly. I really do. And but again, to get back to this, patience is the proofreader, right? It's not about getting it done yesterday, right? It isn't. And we have to give ourselves a shot and the allowance to make mistakes and go slow because some of us, that's the only way we can get it done because of those experiences that made it impossible for us to get onto the top of the pile, that all that work and all that determination and all those courage was something that we're not naturally born with, right? Well, maybe we're naturally born with, but by the course of our childhood, by coming out of it, it's been diminished already. And so sometimes, some of us, we need to go slow, right? Because we can't be scared. We can't give up. And when you get frustrated and scared, when you feel incapable, you feel like you don't matter, it's easy to want to throw your hands up in the air and say, I quit. But if you just understand that you just can do it in baby steps, just do it in small munchies, and don't look at the clock, don't look at the calendar, right? And don't bypass the lessons because at the end of the game, when you come past that finish line, who's going to get the gold medal, right? The one who put in the reps 100%. Okay, you guys. The powerful word tonight on Thursday is patience. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. I hope your day's been going good, dear. Hope your day's been going good. I hope everybody's day has been going good. I'm going to have a good sleepy tonight. I tell you that. Okay, you guys. One more day, tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow, 9 p.m. Central. If you want to pop in, don't forget my email is down below. If you kind of want to hang out with me, it's no charge, right? I'm gaining experience in what I am doing. And I've been doing in baby steps and I've been doing it for a very long time. And it's in that work that we do that makes it comfortable, right? Understanding that somebody actually knows, right, what we've been through. And I think that I would have appreciated somebody like that when I needed them, right? And that's the truth. Okay, you guys, you have a great night, and we'll see you.